Welcome. Okay, welcome to CadreTalk, everyone. My name is Dawn Penfold, and I'm president of Meeting Job, which recently partnered with Cadre. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit about CadreTalk. We have developed this series as an opportunity for you to grab a cup of coffee, which I have. And we've also developed the series and for you to take a short break out of your day. And today and from now on, we're also producing this program on a live YouTube feed. So we want to welcome all of you who are watching us on YouTube. And we ask you to mark your calendar every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will have a 30-minute conversation with an industry expert on a variety of topics. Our goal at Cadre and Meeting Jobs is to give all the meeting and event professionals an opportunity to learn something new in this conversation, even if it's just one takeaway. So before we get started, let me share a bit about who we are. Cadre is a very cool platform and a service offering a compliant, and really the key word here is compliant, gig economy, freelancer staffing model. I want you to think about a platform for event staff and independent contractors like an Uber and LinkedIn with a marketing opportunity like Google. Bottom line, if you're hiring event staff, virtual event staff, or a long-term meeting or event project professional, Cadre is a source for you to find that talent that's affordable and compliant. Now, if you're a gig worker in our industry, this is your go-to place to find work. In fact, for gig workers and independent contractors and those who own their own businesses right now, Cadre is offering a 50% discount on the required background check that everybody has to fill out, so don't hesitate to sign up. Now, Meeting Jobs offers an industry-specific job board as well as services in the retained search and resume pre-qualification services for the events and meetings industry. Together, Cadre and Meeting Jobs provides a full complement of labor resources across the hiring spectrum, from full-time planners to project-based contract planners to event staff. And you can learn more about both of us at hirecadre.com and meetingjobs.com. So now a few housekeeping notes. Everyone is muted, I think. Everybody should be muted except for Wayne and I, and are not seen. So no need to throw on the extra makeup or make sure that you're presentable from the waist up. You are encouraged to ask questions using the Q&A area. If you are in the Zoom webinar room, we may address your questions during the program or at the end if time allows. If you're watching us through the live YouTube feed, we will not be able to see your questions. However, we'll still submit them through the YouTube feed, and we'll try to get all the questions taken care of as time allows. And finally, stay tuned for the email and announcement for next week's Cadre Talk. Our conversation will be with none other than Corbin Ball, talking about artificial intelligence and how they're using it in our industry. So today, let's get today's conversation with Wayne Robinson, AVP of Programs and Exhibits. Oh, you're smiling so nicely, Wayne. The conversation is navigating the new corporate meetings landscape. I have to say, I'm really impressed with Wayne and have watched his career growth for many, many years. Wayne joined FM Global, where he leads a team of 14 meetings and multimedia professionals responsible for domestic and international meetings and events. His primary focus is strategy, content, and execution of face-to-face and virtual meetings, as well as associated communications. He has had a stellar career before this with various financial institutions. He recently was chair of FICP, the Financial and Insurance Conference Planning Professionals Association, and has been on numerous advisory boards. I know Wayne. I respect his down-to-earth approach to so many things. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got a somewhat adequate golf game. And most of all, he's kind. He's got great kindness. You have no idea how happy I am that you've joined us today, Wayne. Welcome.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me.
And so I'm going to start with a two-tiered question. A year ago today, pandemic hits. What was your knee-jerk reaction? And then dealing with that knee-jerk reaction, how do you deal with the common ground to stand on where there are so many issues to deal with before the pandemic hit? I mean, how did you just start? What did you do? Tell us your story.
Well, Dawn, when the pandemic hit, quite honestly, I was so desensitized because we live in a 24-hour news cycle. There's so many things that are happening, and it's like, okay, maybe in about 6 weeks it'll be something else.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Seriously. And I remember gathering the team, and I believe it was, I want to say March 11th or 12th. And we went into the studio in the office. And I said, well, everybody gather what you need. Take your laptop, take your power cord, take what you need in terms of your files or what have you, and we'll see you in about 6 weeks. Everything should be okay. And I actually felt that way. I really believed that, sooner or later, this thing would just kind of dissipate or something along those lines. Little did I know, here it is now, a year later, and I'm still sitting in my little office, where I've been for the past year, and hoping that, soon we'll have the news that we will be able to get out of here. I think I didn't know, like so many other people, and quite frankly, after going through 9/11, going through 2008, going through the ups and downs within our industry, I figured, well, you know what? We'll get through this. We'll get past it, and we'll move on. Now, since that time, I've lost a lot of people that are close to me, whether it be friends or family, to COVID-19. I've seen the world turn upside down right in front of our eyes. During the time I was sitting here and didn't have a lot of places I could go, watching the news in the evening, right here within our country. And it's still, I think if I look back right now, it's still hard for me to kind of fathom what we have gone through, what we continue to go through, and then not really knowing exactly when it will all end. So it's just like you're continuing to manage on a day-to-day basis instead of being able to look forward.
What, you are, I don't want to say you're upper middle management, right? Or lower upper management. So you have to report up, as well as you've got a full team that report to you. And how did you first react to, okay, I have got to advise the people who are above me? Where did you start sourcing? How did you think this process through? Because this was brand new to all of us.
Absolutely. You know what? Quite honestly, before now, and I've been in the company now, I'm going to say 6 years in April. Before now, I never understood the true value of what I brought. And not just me, but our team and the expertise that we have internally. And the reason why I say that is because we did the same thing over and over. We did meetings, we did live events, we did communications surrounding that. We did have a multimedia team, so we did the video, we did all of the graphics, the PowerPoints, things of that nature. So we did this rudimentary rote approach to our jobs. Not that we changed things and we did things differently, but never before was the value of, what do you think? What are your thoughts? What are you hearing? All this was brand new to me, because no one's ever approached me / us with those type questions before. And these are senior most managers in the company. I mean, these are executives who have amazing opportunities to lead, asking the meeting guy, what are you hearing? What are other people doing? What's the focus from some of our competitors or either people within the insurance and financial realm? I mean, it's like, whoa, did you just ask me that question? So ironically, what do? I go back to a lot of my, colleagues at FICP or friends in the industry or people I've known for years and say, what are you guys doing? And there's all this information, all this free-flowing ideas and thoughts came back. And then all of a sudden, I became the subject matter expert out of nowhere. It's like, what are your thoughts on when do you think we need to turn the corner? fourth quarter meetings, 2022, sourcing, all the things surrounding this little profession that a lot of people don't understand became that much more relevant. It became that much more relevant. So I've never experienced like anything like that in my entire career.
You probably don't want to again either.
Never again, never again. That's it.
When this is over, we all want to be over with it. Okay, so
exactly.
So I'm going to go off what we talked about before when we planned this, because a question has come in and it said, what tools would you suggest for individuals who are looking to rejoin the workforce at COVID, after COVID-19? What tools? And we talked about tools, and maybe this is a good time for you to talk about tools.
Exactly. It's so ironic. We talked about a toolbox, and I use this analogy all the time because it just kind of fits right now. All right, so I got an old rusty toolbox in the garage, right? I'm not the handiest person in the world, but you got to have tools. So what do you have at the very top? You got a screwdriver, you got a hammer, and pretty much that's it. So, and then I've got a lot of stuff that I don't remember what's in that box. I got an Allen wrench. I've got all these different tools. I got a pair of pliers and I got a wrench. So this old rusty toolbox has so much stuff in it. It must weigh about 50 pounds of stuff I have no idea how to use or why do I need it. But every time I go to Home Depot and I buy something else, I need some Allen wrench or I buy a piece of furniture, you got to put everything together. I already have it. So I come back home and I dig in the toolbox and there it is. I'm saying to myself, that's awfully weird. I just went and spent $8.95 for this little wrench that I'll never use again. I already have one. And the reason why is because we're just so accustomed to what we use all the time. We don't think about, well, what else do I have? Or what other, or when will I need this? So almost like that analogy is the same thing about what's going on right now in the workforce. Because I'll give you an example, a meeting planning or meeting planner, meeting professional, hospitality professional. You're either in sales, you can be in convention services, you can be in banquet services, you can be a meeting planner, a coordinator, anything. We live in this very specific kind of mindset that our skills are germane to our industry, and they're not. They're not. And the thing about it is everything that we do, whether it be speccing programs, site inspections, whether it be hosting clients, whether on the hotel side, convention services, or what have you, housing, all of that stuff is transferable skills. So it's just like that toolbox that you don't know what's in there because you never dig through it until you need something. And you're like, all you have to do is rename it. And I was just sitting here waiting for you before we started. And these things came to mind instantly. Project management, strategic planning, tech savvy, customer client relations, sales management, consulting, revenue management, business owner. These are all.
Yeah, negotiation, legal,
exactly.
Technology.
Exactly. But if you would look at my resume now, which is dusty, you wouldn't see any of that stuff on there. You will see stuff specific to what I do within our industry. So to answer that question in short form, it's like, you know what? Take everything you do, all the knowledge and the experience that you gain, and take a look at job requisitions, take a look at stuff on your website and say, listen, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to open the door? Because a lot of times we have those tools already. We just don't know we have them because they're called something different.
Yeah. Do you think there's any specific tool that you think, okay, for meeting professionals or going forward, if they want to stay in the industry, what do you think is going to be key? I mean, what if you were hiring somebody? What would be things that you would look at? What are those tools? What Allen wrench would you hire?
Strategic. Yeah, project management. Now, we can all do BEOs. We all know how to negotiate in that respect. But I need someone, if I was to hire somebody right now, I would hire somebody, hopefully, that would know what it took me a long time to realize, that the seat at the table, how important it is to really get my foot in the door and work with a lot of our internal clients, really kind of rest on the fact that I can speak the language, understand the business model, understand the objectives, really kind of put into play what we bring to the table and how important that is to kind of fit into the grand scheme of what they're trying to accomplish. If I can do that, then pretty much I'm in. And that will be the person I'd want to hire, because that's the person that I don't have to say, we're not order takers, we're professionals. What we're doing is key to the success of this company. And it took me a long time to realize that, because I thought, well, we're putting on events, you know? I didn't realize how much it affected the bottom line. It affected the culture. It affected how people feel about themselves. So it took me a long time to realize that. And all I thought I was doing was putting on good events, having people walk away and enjoy themselves.
So I'm going to ask you, because again, this is not what we talked about the other day, what we were going to talk about. I know. So somebody has asked in the questions, how do you identify a strategic person in a resume, or how do you identify a strategic person in an interview? And that's it. We were talking about how you identify or relate to people through Zoom, through when you're not face to face. So how do you identify those skills that would be important to you?
To be honest with you, it's very difficult to identify that reading a resume. It's very difficult to identify it right away when you're interviewing a person or being interviewed. I think people almost have to really do their homework. It's like, okay, do some research on the company, do some research on the person, if at all possible. That's what's so great about social media. I mean, you can just go and Google somebody and say, you know, let me try to figure out some things in here that I can take my highlighter out and say, maybe this is something I need to talk about or bring up, or maybe this is something that will be important to this person. And you can even look at their past jobs and see what positions they held and said, this person's really into finance, or they may really be into something like communications or marketing. So I have to take a look at what I'm putting on paper, or the few minutes that I'm going to have sitting on this screen, and say, I need to talk about that. Maybe I need to talk about that more so than the logistical and tactical aspects of what they're asking me to do. So just because they're asking for something in a job requisition doesn't mean that you can't go above and beyond. And this is something that's really taking us a long time to understand. Don't just say, okay, fine, I've done this for 10 years. Also talk about the other things, those transferable skills, what we have in our toolbox, the project manager, the strategic thinking, just those things that I think that really could benefit a person. And it's really, really against a lot of our human natures to say, well, you know what, I'm going to blow my horn a little bit, or I'm going to go off script because I'm afraid I don't have, I can't get back on script. And that's not what they're asking me for. Sometimes we don't know what we're asking for. We'll hear it during the interview process. We'll hear it during the communication back and forth with that person. Or not, they're sitting across the table or they're on Zoom. It doesn't matter.
Well, okay. So somebody has asked about your toolbox analogy. And I'm going to read the question. The toolbox analogy is a good one, yet how will employers and clients feel about utilizing carpenters who haven't used those tools in a year? We're all in that boat. So, we've got that rusty Allen wrench. How do we convince people that we still have the skills, or what should we do to make sure that we still have those skills for those who haven't been doing it?
Well, you know what? Quite honestly, there's so many opportunities right now for us to hone our skills, whether it be seminars, whether it be free webinars, whether it be having conversations with people, holding the positions we might be interested in, because you'd be surprised that some of those skill sets, those requisite skill sets are not that rusty. It hasn't been that long ago, and how quickly it'll come back. And we might be even using some of those skills on a day-to-day basis and not even aware of it because we call it something else. There's nothing harder than managing a household, or you got children, or managing the things we do on a day-to-day basis. That's in itself a skill set. Strategic planning, project management, whatever you want to call it. It could be doing something around the house. And it sounds very simplistic in a way, but at the same token, if you take that and put that in the context of I'm asking you to do something, you'd be surprised how much we already know. We may not know exactly what the technical terms of it are. We may not exactly know it may take us a little bit for it to come back to us, but that foundation is already built.
Yeah, I was saying, I also think that we have to, and you mentioned this before with the strategic, but we have to look at ourselves as more than what we think we are. I think we have to look at ourselves as meeting producers. We're producers now. We're not just putting on one aspect. We are with a hybrid, with virtual meetings and everything. We're working with so many different aspects that we are now producing almost like a television show. It is, there's so many aspects that we're bringing in now. And I think that changing our viewpoint of who we are and the importance of what we do is really important to move forward.
Exactly. It's almost like showing our value. And again, going back to someone that asked a question about, honing skills, you'd be surprised how many people sitting on the other side of the table, whether it be virtually or the actual table itself, interviewing a person, they don't fully know exactly what they're asking for. They know what they want, but they don't recognize it always on paper. And they don't always recognize it when it's sitting right in front of them.
Yeah. I always advise candidates to try to figure out what the fire is, what the problem is, and then solve that problem, solve that fire. Your resume attracted them. Something attracted them. What you have to do is go beyond the resume at that point.
Exactly.
I
want to share.
Okay, go ahead. Share. Go ahead.
So I interviewed, I took a job at Northwestern Mutual in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Never been to Wisconsin.
Very cold.
Exactly. Very cold. Exactly. They put me up in a hotel downtown. My interview process started the following morning, and I interviewed with 8 people back to back. I didn't have lunch. I went to back-to-back interviews and everything like that. So it was exhausting. But during the course of each person I interviewed with, and sometimes, quite honestly, I did not understand exactly the line of business. Every company is different. But I would take their business card, I asked them for a card, and I would write down something that I did understand or I felt that I could help with for 8 different interviewers. So I wrote something down like, really into project management, really want to understand exactly what, how the meetings and events department can move the ball, can affect the bottom line, can really, integrate with the culture and what they're trying to accomplish, all the way down to, need somebody to kind of manage this because I need to stop thinking about this kind of stuff. I mean, and it was so ironic because, and I'm saying to myself, there were some really good people that interviewed for those positions. So when I got back to the hotel, I was exhausted. I had a late night flight going back to Jersey. And I wrote a thank you note to each and every one of those people. Before I left them at the front desk. And in it, I referenced something about that individual interviewer that stood out to me about what their ask was. And a lot of times I didn't fully understand, to the person's point, how do I fit into this? Is this exactly the skill set that's needed? So fast forward, got the job, handed it off to the clerk at the front desk. She put them in the mailbox for me. A lot of people responded email, hey, nice thank you note, great to see you, the following day. They were down the street, so the mail delivery evidently was pretty quick. So I asked my boss, who became my boss, moved to Wisconsin, the whole 9 yards. And I said, what was it that differentiated me from these other candidates? He said, your note. You wrote a note, and some people responded, thanks for the interview. They put a thank you card or something. You wrote a personal note to everyone, and I know that because we talked about it. and you talked about something specific.
Right.
And I did say to her, I said, now, you realize that I couldn't solve every one of those problems. She said, it didn't matter. You listened. And you may not have known the 9 or the 10 things, other points that we were asking for, but something stood out about you.
Yeah, I can't emphasize the importance of handwritten thank you note. I mean, I always did. Emails are great. Never text a thank you note. Never text a thank you note after an interview. Emails are okay, but follow up with that note, that actual address. You write it, you handwrite it, you send it in. So many people think it's old fashioned, but it makes such an impact. And the fact that you individualized each one, that is key. So brings me to the next question. What is the best career advice you never got?
The best career advice I never got was to, no one ever told me this, choose a job, a profession you love. The money will come. The opportunities will present themselves. It may not present themselves, they may not present themselves in the same company, in the same position, but they will come. And what I mean by that is I changed positions later in my career twice. And people say, and some people still say in conventional wisdom that, you know something, if you got to do everything you do, by the time you're in your 40s, you got to make things happen. Well, you know what? They may happen for you at different times within your career. So if I had known that, stop trying to put that square peg in a round hole. Maybe you need to think about what you're doing, gain those valuable skills and everything like that. And that next step may not be at the company that you're in right now. It may not even be in the state you're in right now. But that opportunity will present itself. So keep your eyes and ears open and just get better and grow and understand exactly what your value is.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we have just got like 3 minutes, the fastest half hour on the face of the earth. I'm going to step back to the pandemic, and in 6 months, I hope we won't be talking about the pandemic as much. But what good has come out of this for you? There's good that comes out of every situation. What is the good that has come out of the pandemic for you?
I have slowed down. I don't have as many distractions in my life that I can take a look and see what I can do better as a human being. I can take a look now to see where I need to go and what my next steps are without being impeded by the everyday nonstop things that I have to do outside this little box. And I can take a look and see what the world is like instead of watching it on the 6 o'clock news. I can kind of absorb. I can speak to people. I can pick the phone up and I can send a note. I can do the things that I did not find, either couldn't find the time to do. I was too tired, or it's too late in the evening. I better not call. Or, you know what, I don't want to bother somebody, or I got to get prepared for tomorrow. I am here in this little office all the time. I can take a moment to say, what do I need to do? What's the right thing for me to do? And I couldn't do that before.
That's great. We have another question. That's a good one. We have 1 minute. What are your thoughts on executing virtual programming versus in-person events? And has virtual been more challenging for your team? And how have you measured ROI and overall success over the past year? You've got 45 seconds to answer that question.
Wow.
Just give us an overview. I mean, how go ahead.
We switched completely all virtual. We haven't done a live meeting since last January of 2020. Everything we've done either canceled or moved to virtual. We had no idea what we were doing. Either we had to use a third party to help us to kind of figure things out. We had to do a lot of, on-the-job training, for lack of a better word. We have teams internally. We use the Zoom platform. We were onboarding on 24. we are actually creating, what's necessary for our survival at this point in time.
Heather, how
Complete
have you
honesty.
measured ROI? How have you measured the ROI of that? Have you been able to do that?
We've been able to survey, we've been the polling, things of that nature to kind of with our internal clients. We are more involved in the planning process than we've ever been in the past, because right now they don't know what they're doing. And how do you condense a day and a half or 2-day meeting into 90 minutes? It's very difficult. So we're helping them not only from a content perspective, but also from a technical standpoint, as well as just kind of being a part of, hey, we're in this together. Again, some great kudos. The team's working very hard, but we're still learning. It's still an ongoing process for us.
Great, thank you. Well, it's 2:30. Wayne, my friend, I am so happy that you've been here. You have such a following. You have done such a good job in your career. And thanks for being here. And send my best to Crystal. Have a great day. And bye, everyone. And hope to see you at the next Cadre Talk. Okay, bye, Wayne.
Absolutely.